So I have shared the notes in the group. I don't know how you can be able to see them. Yes. Yeah, so we're not going to write notes. We're going to go through them. So cost estimation. You have the notes? You are new. This is you? You have the notes. You're going to give your number to our admin. Then he's going to incorporate you in the group. Even you can do it now. So new fellows, when they come, you direct them appropriately so that we are up to the same page when we are doing our stuff, isn't it? Yeah. So you're supposed to be having notes. You're supposed to be having notes. In case you are new or you're online, you can request for the notes and then we share them. And you share them. So those ones who are online, kindly notify me so that we can be able to share the notes. 0727 248 707. This is my number. We are not going to be writing notes in class. We're going to be using handouts because of the limited time we have. Okay, so you can as well print them the way I've printed. If you can afford, or you can read them on your phone or on your computer. Or you can even write them down when you have time. So everybody, you ready? You're now okay? So cost estimation, if you're doing MA, either ITD or CPA, this is a very important topic. So cost estimation. So what is it? It is the process of determining in advance the amount of cost to be incurred when a given activity is undertaken. So it is the process of determining in advance the amount to be incurred if a particular activity is undertaken. So you're estimating the cost in advance. That is what is called cost estimation. So it assumes that the total cost is made up of fixed and variable costs. So this estimation assumes that the total cost is made up of total cost. It assumes that the total cost is equals to fixed cost plus variable cost. That is the assumption. It assumes that the total cost is equal to fixed cost plus variable cost. In other words, y is equals to a plus bx. That is the assumption of this particular estimation topic. So where y stands for total cost, y stands for total cost, y stands for total cost, a stands for fixed cost, a stands for fixed cost, and b is equals to variable cost per unit. V is variable cost per unit, and x is equals to the number of units, hours, or period. X is equals to number of units, hours, or period. So that is a general equation of estimation. Y is equals to a plus bx. So we have steps in estimation. So there are particular steps that I have followed when you're estimating. So the first step is you identify what we call the dependent variable, IA item to be predicted, which you call the Y. So you identify the Y, the dependent variable. That is number one. Number two, you identify the cost driver of the cost to be predicted, independent variables. That is X. You identify X. And the three, you gather data for both X and Y. Analyze the data above and observe the trend. You analyze the data and then you observe the trend. Then you develop an estimation equation using appropriate method. So those are the steps of estimation. Then we have method of estimations. We have methods of estimations. We have methods of estimations, methods of estimation. So number one, we have what we call industrial engineering method. Industrial engineering method. Industrial engineering method. Number two, we have what we call accounts analysis method. Accounts analysis method. That is method number two. And then number three, we have high-low method. And number four, we have symbol regression or least square method. Symbol regression, stroke least square method. Least square method. And lastly, we have what we call the scatter diagram or scatter diagram, visual fit scatter diagram. Sometimes we call it visual fit method, visual fit method. So those are the methods we use for estimation. There are 5, so you're supposed to know those 5 methods. Those are the methods of estimation. So we start with the number one, industrial engineering method. So which is this method? Industrial engineering method. So when you check the notes are well written. So this is where a professional engineer or an experienced person, not necessarily a professional engineer or a professional in a particular field, so applies his skills, knowledge, and experience to determine the relationship between inputs and outputs. So in other words here, you use your experience, your skills, and knowledge to predict costs. To predict, there are no formula you use. If you're a particular profession, you're a skilled person in a particular field, isn't it? Maybe you're a constructor or a builder. You build houses. And you have built a house in a particular environment or during some economic conditions, isn't it? So you're able to use that knowledge to predict another cost of similar house. You don't need to do any other cost and any other calculation to predict. So that is what we call industrial engineering. There's no computation. You use they can only ask you to write short notes on industrial engineering. Okay? So I hope you understand. So it is most preferred when an item is unique. It is most preferred when an item is unique. If an item is of construction in nature, and the relationship can be expressed in physical quantities. So what are the advantages of this method? It is economical and time effective. It is very economical. It is easy to understand, economical and time effective. However, the method is subjective or biased. Subjective or biased. Therefore, it cannot be used for general estimation. So under this particular method, they can only require you to explain what it is, and then advantages and disadvantages. That is industrial engineering. We go to the method number 2, we call it account analysis method. Account analysis method. Account analysis method. It involves the examining of cost drivers. It involves examining of cost drivers and classifying them as either fixed or variable costs. These costs are then used to establish an estimation equation in the form of y is equals to a plus bx. So you examine the cost drivers. And then these cost drivers, you classify them either as fixed or variable. And then using those fixed or variable, you use them to estimate. You use to establish an estimation equation in the form of y is equals to a plus bx. So some other question, they can want you to explain what is account analysis. Okay? So you must be able also to explain. So now, after you've classified them as either fixed or variable, now you come up with the equation or the estimation equation in the form of y is equals to a plus bx. So we have an example there on the handout. So the example reads, the following information has been extracted from the books of KK Limited. The following information has been extracted from the books of K. So one characteristic of this method is that when they want you to use this method to estimate cost, they will give you costs and they will give you the in their classification form. The costs that will be given, they will tell you whether they are variable or fixed. Okay. Now it is you to group them accordingly. So here we have been given the cost. We have direct materials, and it has been classified as all variable. And then we have been given the total there. We have the labor cost. We have been told the total labor cost, 10% is fixed. Then maintenance cost, 50% is fixed. Rent, all fixed. Overhead, 30% fixed. And total is 840. So the number of units manufactured during the period were 2,088 units. So in other words, when you're using the account analysis method, they will give you the cost and their classification and the number of units that relates to those costs. Are we together? So they will give you the cost and their classification. So you're using account analysis method. You're using accounting analysis method. Now your work there, any question on account analysis is very easy. What you do, you just write there, fixed here, and here you write here variable. And then you write here. Okay? So the first cost there we have been given is direct materials. So you write there direct materials. Direct materials. So we have been told it is a variable cost. The entire amount should be classified as variable. So you note it under variable, right here 600,000. And here you write here dash. And then we go to the next cost, labor costs. So you write here labor costs. So the total cost is 500,000. Out of the 500,000, we have been told 10% is fixed. So 10% is fixed, which will be 50,000. So the remaining will be variable, which is how much? 400. So the remaining must be 450 so that you make 500. The next cost is maintenance cost. So you write there maintenance cost. Maintenance cost. Maintenance cost. The total cost is 900,000. And you have been told 50% is fixed. So you write here 450,000. Then here 450,000. So a half. Then we have rent cost. The total cost is 540. And we have been told it is rent is fixed. All fixed, 540,000. So here you write here dash. And then we have overheads. So you write here overheads. Overheads, you have been told the total cost is 840. Out of that 840, 30% is fixed. 30% of 840 is how much? 252,000. And the remaining will be 588,000. So that is what you do. Those costs will be given them in form of their, when they are classified, your work is to just group them the way we have done. And then you get the totals here. So the total fixed cost will be how much? 1292. So this one will be 1292,000. And this other one is 2088,000. So this one will be 2088,000. Then now you come here and you write your estimation equation, which is y is equals to a plus bx. So we said a is the fixed cost. A is a fixed cost. So the a will be 1292,000. And then we said b is the variable cost per unit, isn't it? So here we have been given, this is bx. We have been given the bx here. Bx is 2088,000. In other words, so we have the, okay, we have been given the units. So 2088 B, 2088 is equals to 2088,000, isn't it? So in other words, if you multiply the variable cost per unit times the total number of units that were manufactured, you get the total variable costs. Are we together? So now we want to get the variable cost per unit. These are not the 2088 are the total number of units that were manufactured. Are we together? So now we divide both sides by 2088. 2088 to get the value of B, which is 1,000, isn't it? B is 1,000 per unit. So B is 1,000 here. Not 1,000 units. It's supposed to be 1,000 shillings per unit. So there's correction there, 1,000 shillings per unit. So now our estimation equation, we have Y is going to be A, which is 1292,000 plus 1,000x. So it means the variable cost per unit is 1,000. Now, if you want to estimate the cost, you're only going to be replacing X by the number of users that you're making in future. The fixed cost, remember, we said it's always constant. It will remain constant. So what will be changing is the variable cost. The variable cost depends on the number of units being manufactured. So now they told you requirement number one was to determine the estimation equation in the form of Y is equals to A plus BX. So this is the estimation equation, Y is equals to A plus BX. We have established it there. And then part two of the question, using the equation above, estimate the total cost of manufacturing 3,500 units. Now, they want you, if using this equation that you've already established, they want you, supposing now you're manufacturing or you are producing that 500 units, what will be the total cost using this equation here? So Y is going to be 1292,000 plus 3,500. 3,500, sorry, 1,000. 1,000 is the variable cost per unit, isn't it? And then now you substitute X by 3,500. By 3,500. So you get the total cost, which is our Y. It's going to be 4,792,000. So we have used this equation to estimate the cost of making that 500 units. I don't know whether we are together. And then part three of the question, using the equation in one above, determine the number of units manufactured if the company had budgeted a total cost of 4.8 million. So they're asking you, supposing the total budgeted cost is shillings 4.8 million. Supposing the company had budgeted to incur a total cost of 4.8 million, how many units will be manufactured under those costs? Isn't it? So you're using the same equation here. This is a budgeted cost. So they want us to determine the number of units to be manufactured. So we're going to say here Y is equals to 1292,000. We know this one is the fixed cost plus, sorry, Y is 4.8 million. So 4.8 million, 4,800,000. Let us write 4,800,000 is equals to this plus now our 1,000x, isn't it? 1,000x. So this one will cross the equal signs and become negative. So 4.8 million minus 1292,000 is equals to 1,000x. So when you subtract this one, you get, it is 3,508,000 is equals to 1,000x. So you divide both sides by 1,000. You divide by both sides by 1,000. So this one goes with this. So X will be 3,508 units. So in other words, if the cost is 4.8 million, the total number of units that will be manufactured to match that cost is 3,508 units. So those are the costs that will be manufactured to be equivalent to the costs that have been budgeted of 4.8 million. So that is how we use that method. Okay. So there's a question that was done in CPA June 2009. I've written that question in your handout there. Although we have so many other questions. So we have a question that was done in CPA June 2009. The question is there written in your handout. So you don't need to struggle. Although I'll share the past papers. We have the past papers from all the way from 1999. So don't worry. But I have written this question there for the purposes of easy and flow of our work. So the question reads, Good Health Care Hospital has prepared a schedule of estimated overhead cost for its blood test on the assumption that production will be 80,000 tests. Overhead costs have been classified as fixed cost and variable cost. So we have overheads and then we have the cost. The first overhead there is supplies. The total cost is 375,000. In bracket, it has been classified as variable. Supplies. And then we have indirect labor. The total cost is 1,942,000. Out of that, 1,710,000 is classified as fixed. The remaining will be variable. Then we have rent. The rent is 2,364,200. It has been classified as fixed cost. Then we have utilities, 272,100, all variable. We have depreciation, 810,000, all fixed. We have maintenance, 243,300. Out of that, 85,000 is fixed. Then we have data processing, 253,200. Out of that, 158,200 is fixed. Technical support, total is 169,400, all fixed. Required, a cost estimation equation using the account analysis approach, taking the number of tests as the only cost driver, 6 marks. So using the equation B1, in question B1 above, estimate the total cost given that the anticipated number of tests are 90,000, 2 marks. So total marks, how much? 10 marks. No. It's very easy, isn't it? So just classify the cost the way it is written. Then you come up with that one. Okay? You've seen the answer there? It's very easy. So another thing that they can ask you under this method is disadvantages of this method. What are the disadvantages of this method? Disadvantages of account analysis method. Number one, classification of cost into fixed and variable component is based on individual judgment, which might be subjective. So there's no method of classifying this cost as fixed and variable. So that one will bring in an element of biasness or subjectivity. When we say it is subjective, it means it is biased. So that is disadvantage number one of using that method. Disadvantage number two, the result of this method cannot be defined using a statistical method because there's no procedure of identifying fixed and variable costs. In other words, you cannot test this method using the statistical procedures. And number two, it might be time consuming, especially if you're in a big organization where we have so many costs. The process of classifying costs as fixed or variable is time consuming. And then it may not be suitable to small businesses with limited resources. So those are the disadvantages of account analysis method. So that is number two. That is how we do account analysis method. Are we together? So we go to method number three. We call it high-low method. We go to method number three. We call it high-low method. So high-low method, I have seen questions. I have gone through your past papers and I've seen questions testing students on this particular topic. One of the things that you need to be very keen on is to explain, to be able to explain a particular method and then list the advantages and disadvantages, in addition to knowing how to compute the cost using that method. So the first thing you need to know how to explain it, like high-low method. So high-low method, it involves taking the highest and the lowest level of activity. You take the highest and the lowest level of activity, and using those 2 points, using those 2 points to develop an estimation equation in the form of y is equals to a plus bx. So you identify the highest and the lowest points of activities. Then you use those 2 points to develop an estimation equation in the form of y is equals to a plus bx. So we have an example there. The following was extracted from the books of K Limited. We have machine hours. We have the first period, the machine hours was 80. And then the maintenance cost, which is y, was 200. Then number two, we have 120 machine hours. The maintenance cost was 300. So we have been given there x and y, the values of x and y. So required, determine the relationship between the machine hours and the maintenance cost in the form of y is equals to a plus bx using high-low method. Estimate the maintenance cost for 900 units. Estimate the maintenance cost for 900 units. So here we said you write high, here you write high, and then you write low. Then here we have x and then y. So you identify the highest x. X are the units, the independent variable. So the highest x in our question is 1. So you write here 160. And the lowest x is 40. You write here 40. And then you go to Y, you identify the highest, which is 400, isn't it? And then the lowest is 150. Then now here, remember our equation is Y is equals to A plus BX. That is our estimation equation. Now to get B is change in Y over change in X. That is how we get the values of B. So change in Y is 400 minus 150. You take the highest minus the lowest. Then you come here, X, the highest is 160 minus 40. So when you do that computation, what do you get? You get 20 or 2? Huh? 20. 2.08. So we can just say 2. You can just say 2. We can round it off. So that is how we get the values of B. You identify the highest X and the lowest X, the highest Y and the lowest high. Then to get B is the change in Y over change in X. Then using the highest point, use the highest point to get the value of, to obtain A. To get A, use the highest point to get A. So remember Y is equals to A plus BX. Y is equals to A plus. So you take the highest Y. The highest Y here is how much? 400. Is it so? We don't have A. It is A that we are looking for. Plus, already we have our B, which is 2. Our B is 2. And then you take the highest X. The highest X is 160. So you multiply 2 times 160, which is 320, isn't it? And then it crosses the other side. It crosses the other side. It can sometimes even be negative. Don't be. Some students, when they get negative, they think they have got it wrong. Okay? Don't worry even if it is negative. So it crosses the other side, and then you take 400 minus 320. This one crosses the other side. So that one will be our A. Our A will be how much? 80. So now our estimation equation is going to be Y is equals to 80 plus 2X. That is going to be our estimation equation. That is how we develop estimation equation using high-low method. And then part B of the question, they wanted us to use using this equation to estimate the total cost when you're producing 900 units. When the production is 900 units, what will be the total cost? When the production is 900 units, what will be the total cost? So it's going to be Y is equals to 80 plus 2 in bracket 900. Now you replace X by 900. So what do you get? So you get 1880 shillings. 1880 shillings. So that is how we use high-low method. So we have example number 2 there. Tumeelewana? That is how we use high-low method. We have example number 2. This is a question, it was also a CPA question. I can't remember which year, but I have written there. So Kenya Auto Assembly Limited, Kenya Auto Assemblers Limited, Kenya Auto assembles cars. It's supposed to be assemblers cars, not assemblers limited. So can you delete the word limited? Assemblers, the assembled cars from imported knocked down kits. So the company has been operating at 60% capacity. The company has been operating at 60% capacity, assembling 3,000 cars per year. So the following information relates to the company operations at 2 different levels of capacity. So we have levels of capacity, we have cost, we have the cost when they're operating at 60% level, and we have the cost when they're operating at 80% level. So required, using the high-low method, establish the cost equation of the company for Y is equals to A plus BX for each of the following costs for the company: direct materials, direct labor, indirect labor, factory fuel and power, factory repairs. So B, using the results obtained in B above, estimate the total cost at 120% level of operation. showing clearly the variable and fixed component of mixed cost. So now this is a question. This is a very good question. This is a very good question. So we have been told that this company assembles cars, and currently they have been operating at 60% level, isn't it? So currently they're operating at 60% capacity level, assembling 300 cars, isn't it? So at 60%, we are capable of producing how many cars? So 60% is the lowest level. We have been given the cost under 60% and the cost under 80%. Is it so? Now the question is, if 60% they are able to produce 3,000 cars, what about if they're operating at 80%, which is the highest level? How many cars can they be able to produce? Okay. So we cross multiply. So it's going to be 80 times 3,000 over 60, which is 4,000. So in other words, the highest level they are producing 4,000 units. At the lowest level, they're producing how many units? 3,000. So now they want us to establish the estimation equation for material, for labor, indirect labor, for fuel and power, and factory repairs. So we said here, we take the highest, we write here high. So we start with the direct material. We start number one, direct material. So they want us to material. We start with the direct material. So we write here high, and here we write low. So here we have X. X is the units produced. So the highest X is 4,000, isn't it? This one that we have already determined here. And the lowest X is, this is 80% operation level. And this is 60% level. So the lowest here is how much? 3,000, isn't it? And then now here we have been given the Y. The Y is the cost. The direct material, the highest is 800. And the lowest is 600. So we can be able to determine B here. B is equals to change in Y over change in X, which is equals to 800,000 minus 600,000 over 4,000 minus 3,000. So when you do that computation, what do you get? So you get B is how much? B is 200. So B is 200. Using the highest point to get the value of A. Use the highest point to get the value of A. So remember Y is equals to A plus BX. So we are using the highest point. The highest Y is 800,000. So you write here 800,000. We don't have A. It is the one that we are finding out. Plus B, highest X. So B is 200. And the highest X is how much? 4,000. So 200 times 4,000, that is 800,000. So you get B is equals to, A is equals to 0, isn't it? So estimation equation to Y is equals to 200X. So in other words, here we don't have fixed element here on the direct materials. So that is how we, that is number one. And then number two, we go to direct labor. 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 So direct labor, we get the value of, we can get B, isn't it? So B, we don't need to write high and low every now and then. We know we just take 200,000 minus 150, isn't it? 200,000 being the highest cost and 150 being the lowest cost. And then we divide over 4,000 being the highest units, 3,000 the lowest units. So what do you get? You get 50, isn't it? You get 50. Senor, now we want to get the A. A, we said we use the highest point. The highest point means we take 200,000. That is the highest Y. 200,000 is equals to A, which we don't have, plus B, which is 50. You multiply by 4,000, isn't it? So 4,000 times 50 is 200,000, isn't it? So A is going to be 0. So our equation is going to be y is equals to 50x. That is direct labor. We go to the next item, which is indirect labor. Indirect labor, that is the next item. So indirect labor, we get the value of B. B, we are saying you take the highest cost, the highest y, which is 240. So you take 240 minus 200,000 over 4,000 minus 3,000. So what do you get? So you get 40. Now we get the value of A. So A is going to be, we want to get the A. It's going to be 240,000 is equals to A, which we don't have, plus 44,000, isn't it? So 40 times 4,000, 160,000, isn't it? So A is going to be 240 minus 160. So that one gives you how much? 80,000, isn't it? So that one will give you 80,000. So Y is going to be 80,000 plus 40x. So that is going to be your estimation of indirect labor cost. Sijui kama tunafuata ama ni ngumu. We go to the next item, which is factory fuel, and we go to number 4. Factory fuel. Factory fuel and power. Factory fuel and power. So we get the value of B. B, we take the highest Y, which is 130. 130 minus 100 over 4,000 minus 3,000. What do you get? 30. So this is B. Then we get the value of A. A, we take the highest 130, which is equals to A plus 30, 4,000. 4,000 is the highest units, X. So when 30 times 4,000, you get 120. So A is going to be 130,000 minus 120,000, which is 10,000. So that is A. So that is factory fuel. We go to number 5. Number 5, we have factory repairs. Is it factory repairs? Factory repairs. So we have factory repairs. So factory repairs, we get the value of B, which is equals to 155,000 minus 130,000 over 4,000 minus 3,000. What do you get? 25. And then we get the value of A. So we take 155,000 minus is equals to A plus 25 times 4,000. So 25 times 4,000 is how much? 100,000. So we come here and say A is equals to 155,000 minus 100,000, which gives you how much? 55,000. So our estimation is going to be 55,000 plus 25x. So those are the equations they wanted us to determine. So that is number 1. Using high-low method, establish the cost equations in form of y is equals to. And then now we come here. So I think I've even done the answers there. So you don't need to struggle, isn't it? Now we want to part B. So they want us to estimate the total cost if the company was operating at 120% level, isn't it? So we're going to ask ourselves, if they're operating at 60% level, they are producing how many cars? 3. Now what about 120 capacity? What will be the units? So we take 120 times 3,000 over 60. So you get how many? 6. So they are producing 6,000 cars if they're operating at 120% capacity level. So now they want us to compute those costs in the form of variable. So we start with variable cost here. Variable cost. So this is the cost at 160% operational level. So variable cost, of course, this one has variable element. Y is equals to 200x, isn't it? It doesn't have fixed cost material. So write there direct material. Number one, direct material here. Or material. So material, the estimation equation is 200, and then we just multiply by 6,000. No fixed element, isn't it? So the variable cost will be how much? It will be 1,200,000. Senor, that is direct material. Direct labor has no fixed cost. So you just come here, direct labor here. We are using now those equations to estimate the cost at 100. So the equation is 50x, isn't it? Y is the total cost. So it's going to be 50 times 6,000. Remember now they're producing how many units? 6,000 units. So it's going to be 50 times 6,000. So how much do you get? 300,000. So you write here 300,000. So that is the variable cost. And then we go to indirect labor. Indirect labor has both fixed and variable component. So indirect labor here, we take the variable component. Indirect labor, we take the variable component, which is 40. You multiply by 6,000. What do you get? Eh? 4. So this one will be 240,000. That is indirect labor. And then we go to the next item, factory fuel. Factory fuel. It is the variable component will be 25 times 6,000. So what do you get? 115. 50. So we are through. Now we go to the fixed cost. We go to the fixed cost. The fixed cost, those one that had A. That's that had A. We have indirect labor. Indirect labor was how much? 80,000, isn't it? The indirect labor here. The fixed component was 80. So you write there 80. You can just write somewhere 80. Fuel, factory fuel had how much? 10,000. Then we had repairs. Repairs, the fixed component was 55,000, isn't it? So you add this one, you get it is 70,000. 70,000, and then you add this one, you get it is 145,000, and then you get the total, which is 221,500. So that is how we use high-low method. Yeah, you see that question was not that easy. Yeah, it was not that easy. So every time you see you've been given the lowest units and the highest, then you at the same time you've been given the lowest cost and the highest, then the first thing that should come into your mind is high-low method. So that is how we use high-low method. Of course, you also need to know the advantages of high-low method and disadvantages. You can even research and get more than what I've written here. They are tested also. They are tested. They're tested. So that is method number 3. That is method number 3. We go to method number, which one? 1890. 1890. It's not 2070. Okay, sir, you can just rectify, no problem. $18.90. So, any questions so far? So now we're going to the last method. Of course, when you don't have this handout, your class will be very difficult. So make sure that you have the handouts when we're coming to class. We're going to be using handouts. You're not going to be writing. If you're writing, we'll be far away from where we are now, isn't it? Then now you go and read them. So we are just trying to minimize time. We don't want to take a lot of time on a particular area by writing, isn't it? So we go to the next method. We call it regression analysis or least square method. 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 So this is a statistical method which is used to determine the nature of relationship existing between variables. So the values of B and A are determined using the formula below. So here we determine the value of B using formula. So B is equals to N summation XY minus summation X summation Y over N summation X squared minus summation X squared. That is how we determine the value of B. So you need to master that formula. And then A is summation Y minus B summation X over N. So those are the formulas I've written there in the handout. That is how we determine the values of A and B. Remember, our estimation equation is Y is equals to A plus BX. Are we together? We have a question that was done in December 2012, question number 1B. December 2012, question number 1. That question, I've written it there. Just a minute. Done in December, CPA December 2012. CPA December 2012, question number 1B. So the question is written there. The information given below relates to Buretex Limited, which manufactures a single type of chemical. Overheads processing costs for the last 18 months have been as follows. So we have the months 1 up to 8. Then we have been given the machine hours and the overhead cost. So we have the machine hours here. We've been given the machine hours here. We've been given the machine hours. And then we have been given the overhead cost. We have been given the overhead costs and the months. So the machine hours is 10,600 the first month, and the overhead cost is 120 in shillings. These are in shillings, okay? In thousands. Then we have 17,000, and we have 180. Then we have 4,000, and then we have, say, 70. Then we have 21,000 and 184. And then we have 19,000 and 178, isn't it? Then we have 7,000 800 and 100. Then we have 14,000 and 1. And then we have 12,000 and 154. Sasawa. So remember our formula is y is equal b. We need to get the b. B is n summation xy. N represents the number of items. So in other words, you need to have summation xy. So we need to have xy here. We need to have xy. And then we need to have x squared. So these two values, the x and y, you'll be given in the question always. So this is the x. X, we said, is the number of units or hours, isn't it? The costs are always y. Costs are always dependent on units, isn't it? Now you have to come up with the y. So sometimes we use the calculator. It is allowed to use the calculator. That is why you go with the calculators. So I'll show you how you're going to use the calculators. If you have the calculators. Do you have the calculators? This calculator here. So I'm going to show you how you're going to use the calculators, isn't it? So on your calculator, you're going to press shift. So you're going to press shift and mod. Press shift plus mod. In other words, you press shift on its own, press shift and you press mod. That is number one. Press shift and mod. So the 1, 2, 3 will display on the screen, isn't it? Then you press 3. Press 3. Press 3. And then press
equal signs.
Equal signs twice. Press equal sign twice. Okay? Press equal signs twice. I repeat. Press shift and mod. So 1, 2, 3 will appear. You press 3. And then you press equal signs twice. So that is to
clear any information on the calculator. That is the first thing. You clear the calculator, isn't it? That is number one. Then number two.
So this is the first procedure to clear the information in the calculator. Number two, you press mod. Press mod. You press mod. After pressing mod, 1, 2, 3 will appear, isn't it? Then you press regression or 3. Press regression or 3. Press regression, that is regression or digit or 3. Or you press 3, isn't it? And then you press 1, that is linear regression. Press 1, that is linear regression. You press 1. So now your computer will be in the regression mode, linear regression mode. That is number 2. Number 3, now you start inputting the values. You start inputting the values. So you start with the values of x. Like in our case, we're going to press 10, 600. Press the values now, starting with s. Press the values. Press the values of x. You press the values of x, comma y. You press the values of x, comma y, and you press m plus. You press m plus. So you press 10, 600, comma. There is a comma on your calculator just before the button of m plus. Then you press the values of y, which is 120. And then you press m plus, isn't it? You go to the next one, 17,000, and then comma 180, and then you press m plus. You go to the next one, 4,000, comma 70, m plus. Then you go to the next one, 21,000, comma 184, m plus. Then you go to the next one, 19,000, comma 178, isn't it? 19,000 and 178. 19,000 and 178. And then you press M plus. You go to 7,800, comma 100. And then you press M plus. And then you go to 14,000, comma 172. You press M plus. You go to 12,000, comma, you press 154, M plus. So you've now done, that is pressing the values of X and Y into the linear regression mode. Sindio? Tumefuata? Then number 4, the output now. You get the output. Okay? To get the output. So you press shift, press shift and 1. Press shift and 1 to obtain the value, the totals, to obtain the totals. Press shift and 1 to obtain the total. So you press shift and 1. So you press shift there and you press 1. So now you'll see there you have the total summation of X. Summation of X there is written as 2, isn't it? And then you press 2. You want the summation of X, and then is equal signs. Is equal sign. You get it is how much? 105, 400. So you just write here 105, 400. You again press shift and 1. We are getting the totals. You scroll until you get the value, the summation of Y. Summation of Y is under 2. There is a scroller there on your calculator. You scroll it either downwardly or upwardly. And then Y is 2. You press 2 and is equal signs. You get 1158. 11. So you write there 1158. Are we together? Then you press shift 1. You scroll, you get the summation of XY, which is 3. You press 3 and is equal signs. You get this is 16,894,000. Just write the way it is written there. Isn't it? 894,000. Then you still scroll shift, then 1, you scroll. You scroll, you find out the summation of X where it is. It is under 1, you press 1 and is equal signs. So that is 16 million. That is 1 million. So it is billion. 620, 200,000. So you write it there. You write it there. So you have your values. So that is how we do it. Then now here you come. Already this is how you do it in exams. This is how you do it in exams. You see, multiplying here and there, it will take a lot of time, and you might also not be very correct. Now you come here and write the formula. You come here and write here B is equals to N summation X, Y minus summation X, summation Y is equals to N summation X squared minus summation X squared. That is B. Now you come and feed in the values. Already you have the totals here. So N is 8. Those are 8 units. Summation XY, it is here, which is 16,894,000 minus summation X. Summation X is 105,400. You multiply by summation Y, which is 1158, over N. N is 8, summation X squared, which is 16, 20, 200,000 minus summation X squared, which is 105, 400, and then you square. And then you still go to the calculator now. You still go to the calculator, and then now you press shift and 2 now. And then you scroll and you'll get the value of B, which is under 2. You press 2, and then is equal signs. Is equal sign, isn't it? So now that it's written as 7.07. Come on up. 7.0. 7.07. That is the value of B. It is there in the calculator. You don't compute it. You go to A. You write the formula for A, which is summation Y is equals minus B summation X over N. So summation Y, it is 1158. B, it is 707. Summation X. Summation X. Sorry, summation Y is how much? 1158, okay? Summation X is 105, 400. And then you go to your calculator, you press shift 2, And then you scroll until you get the value of A. You get the value of A, 1, then is equals, which is 51.5, isn't it? 51.6. So you write there 51.6. So your equation is going to be y is equals to 51.6 plus 7.7x. So that is how we use the calculator. Ni refu, si ndio? Hakunanga kitu rahisi hii dunia, lazima ung'ang'ane. Si ndio? Yes. Tutarudia hata mara 10, hata si mara moja. Sasa, we're going to repeat it severally, si ndio? We're going to repeat it severally until you get it, si ndio? So we're going to repeat it severally until everybody understands. Together. So you're saying we repeat, isn't it? We are going to repeat it. Supposing we have a simple, I'm not giving you just a minute, a few. Supposing we have the values of x, you'll be given the values of x as, you've been given the values of x. X, we have 800, and then we have y, we have 350. And then we have 1,200 and 350. And then we have 400 and 150. And then we have 1,600 and 550. So we've been given the values of x, and just as simple as that. Every time they want you to use that particular method. So now we want to use simple regression method, isn't it? So we are saying you must have the column for x and y. And then you must have the column for x squared. So you're saying the calculator is going to assist you to do that, isn't it? So we want to go step by step. So you said the first thing you do, you press shift and mod. Shift and mod. And then you press 3. And then you press equal signs twice. You've done that. And then you press mod. You press. After pressing mod, you press 3. That is regression. Then you press 1, linear, isn't it? Now your computer will be in linear form. You now start inputting the values of x and y. So you start by x. In this case, our x is how much? 800. So you press 800 and then comma 350. And then you press m plus. That is the 1. You go to the next one, 1,200, comma, you press 350, m plus. That is 2. You go to the next one, 400, comma, 150, m plus. And then you press 1,600, comma, 550, m plus. So you have 4 digits already. Sinikweli. Now you want to obtain the output. First of all, you start by the totals. So you press shift and 1, and then you want to get the total of x. You want to get the total of x, which is under 2. So you press 2, which is equal signs. So you get the value of x, how much? 4,000. You write there 4,000, isn't it? And then you press again shift and 1. You want to get the value of y. You scroll and you get the value of y, which is under 2. You press 2 is equal sign, which is 1,400. Then you want to get the value of xy. You press shift and 1. You scroll, xy is under 3. You press 3. Then is equal sign. This is 1640,000. You want to get the value of the total of x squared. Shift 1. X squared is under 1. You press 1 is equal sign. This is 4,800,000. 4,800,000. Sasa nani hajaelewa sasa mpaka hapo? Umeshika? Na wewe? Uko sawa, si ndio? So you come here and get the value of B. You write the formula for B. B, we say it is n summation x, y, isn't it? Minus summation x, summation y, over n summation x squared, minus summation x squared. That is the formula. Okay? So n is the number of items, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it is 4 times summation xy, which is 1640,000. Minus summation x is 4,000. Summation y is 1,400. Over n, which is 4, summation x squared, this one, 4,800,000. Minus 4,000 squared. Then once you've written like that, you go to the calculator. Shift, now you press 2. You scroll until you get the value of B. B is under 2, you press 2, which is equal to 0.3. So our B here is equals to 0.3. You come here and write the formula of A, which you're saying it is summation Y, B, summation Y, B, summation X over N. That is the formula. You need to master that formula. Okay? So now we have summation Y, which is 1,400 minus B, which is 0.3, summation X, which is 4,000 over N, which is 4. So you go, you scroll, you shift 2, and then you scroll your calculator until you get the value of B, which is 2. Then you get there. B is under this A. We are looking for A, isn't it? A is 1 is equals to 50. So Y is equals to 50 plus 0.3x. So that one will be your estimation equation. Very simple. What is the problem? There's no big procedure. It's only that you're doing it for the first time. That is how it is. When you're doing something for the first time, it looks a little bit complicated. Once you do it the second time, it becomes easier. The second time you do it, the third time, by the time you are reaching the 10th time of doing it, it is part and parcel of you. Because alternatively, if you don't want to do that, you just multiply these items, get the totals. You square this one, get the totals. If you don't want to go through the calculator, it is still allowed. You just come here and multiply 800 times 350. You get here 280,000. So you write here 280,000. Acceptable. Then you multiply to 1,200 times 350. You get 420. You write here 420,000. Then here 400. Then you multiply by 150. You get here how much? 60. Then 1,600. 1,600 you multiply by 550. You get how much? 880. Then you come here, 800 squared. You get this is 640,000. So you write here 640,000. And then 1,200 squared. You get how much? 1440,000. And then 400 squared. 160,000. 1,600, which is 2560,000. Then you add those ones, you get those values. Then you're good to go. So whichever works for you. Now, if you can't be able to use the calculator, you just do it manually. Acceptable. Tumeelewana? Yes. So that is how we use what we call. And then we have advantages of regression analysis. Number one, it uses all data values and therefore the equation developed is more accurate. It uses all the data values. And then the equation developed can be evaluated for reliability and efficiency. This one can be evaluated for reliability and efficiency. Disadvantages, it assumes that all the variables are linear. There's linearity before the variables. And then number two, there's only one factor affecting activity level. The only variable which causes changes in total cost are units of production, which is not true. Sometimes that is not the only factor. And then it uses historical data, which may not predict future accurately. Then we have the assumption of linear regression model there. The chosen sample is representative of the population. So it assumes that the chosen sample is representative of the population. That is the assumption. Then number two, it assumes that there's the linear relationship between the independent variable and dependent variable. And number three, it assumes that all the variables are normally distributed. So those are the assumptions of linear regression. So under linear regression, mostly they will want you to compute that one. In fact, this is the most tested. This is the most tested. Sawa? Saiko sawa? Yeah. So that is how we use the linear regression model. Sometimes they call it least square method. So if you not meet least square method in the exams, then you start asking me, I know linear regression. Which is this least square method again? So you leave those marks pending. So in fact, this is the easiest topic, I think so. It's one of the easiest topic. You can't allow to miss marks on this topic. If they set any question on this topic, then you celebrate first. You celebrate. You know how to celebrate. You know, have you ever watched football? Every time your team scores, you celebrate, irrespective of whether you're going to lose at the end. Irrespective of whether you're going to lose. So we have the last method, we call it scatter diagrams. Sometimes they call it visual fit method. The scatter diagram, under this method, a scatter diagram is constructed and 2 points from the diagrams are picked, which are used to derive an estimation equation in the form of y is equals to a plus bx. So you draw a graph like this one. So you'll be having the values of x and y. So you draw them on the graph. You draw them on the graph like this one. So we have the values, they will come in a form of scatter. Like this, and then you come here and draw a scatter diagram. So you only pick two values here. You can pick two values here. You can pick two values here. So here you can write y1, y2, x1, x2. Okay? You can write that one, senor. So assuming x1 here is equals to 100. X2 is equals to 150. 150. And Y1 is equals to 1,000. Y2 is equals to 1,500. So in other words, if you produce 100 units, you can get total cost of how much? 1,000. If you produce 150 units here, you get total cost of 1,500, isn't it? So you just pick those two points. Then you come and write Y is equals to a plus bx. Y is equals to a plus bx. So y, you take y2. Y2 is 1,500. 1,500. This is y, okay? Which is equals to a. We don't have a, okay? Plus, we have x. X is how much? You start with this one, x2. You have picked y2, so you pick x2, which is how much? 1. So 150 is xb. Remember, x and b goes together, isn't it? So 150 b. Stiko pamoja. Then you pick, this is 1,000. The next a plus 100 b. So you use elimination. This one is 50 b. This one is, it has eliminated itself. So this one is how much? 500. So b, you divide both sides by 50. So b is equals to 10. Are we together? So you pick either one of these. So you say 1,000 is equals to a plus 1,010. 1,010, isn't it? So this one will be 1,000. So a will be equals to 0. So y is equals to 50x. 50 50x. So I have never seen a question. The only thing they can ask you is to advantages. I've seen they've asked severally the advantages and disadvantages of scatter diagram method, and to explain what it is. So that is what they ask here. Are we together? So that one will bring us to the end of that topic called cost estimation. So we have so many questions on cost estimation. Now it is my turn to give you assignments. Yeah. Assignment. So you can see we have started moving. So you attempt this one. Attempt. So number one is November 2020. I'm going to share the notes, the question paper, sorry. November 2020, question number 1B. Question number 1B. Attempt November 2020, question number 1B. November 2020, question number 1B. In case you have issues, you let me know. May 2019, question number, May 2019, question number, this is CPA, of course. May 2019, question number 1, question number 1B. May 2019, question number 1B. And then May 2018, question number 2B. Question number 2B. So attempt those ones and so many others. So this is a very, very topic that is tested oftenly. So you can attempt so many questions. Tumeelewana? Any question? If you're an online student and you are having difficulties in getting notes, please let me know. Have your number after the class. But the condition for you to be incorporated in our group is that you must have paid. So that is a condition, so that we share the notes and the past papers, you are able to access them. So that is the end of our class today. Next time, we'll be looking at inventory control. So don't miss classes. We have started serious business. Next week, our target is that we complete inventory control. We move on to another topic. Ciao.